Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. And I'm your host, Sandra McGullis. And before we get started today and introduce our beautiful guest, let me just ask everyone who's listening, whether it's iHeartRadio, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever, if you just take a moment to subscribe, like, share, and always leave us a comment, it helps the algorithms so that this show can be brought to many different people at different times. So your click, click is super duper important. Well, today I am so excited. We're doing kind of like a little empowerment of women and how to self start. And then where do you go from there and have a business of your own and build that confidence and build a team and build a tower of supportive women around you so each person can be successful. And my friend Sarah, a local Washingtonian, is here to tell us how she did it. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, again, I started to say your last name. Since you're a friend, I always call you Sarah, and I'm always afraid I'm going to butcher your last name. So, would you please tell the listeners what is your last name?
My name is Sara Mangiaracina.
Mandracina. Italian?
It is Italian, yes, but
Ah,
I'm not Italian. It's former married name.
okay, okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Sarah and what's been ticking in Sarah's world for the last decade, 2 decades. I know I could tell your story in a nutshell, but
Aw,
I would rather you just tell the audience, you found yourself in a place one day and you're like, I need to make some decisions about
yeah,
how to make a living, how to support my girls, how to support myself, and how to support other women.
yeah.
And how did you do that?
So yeah, my business started at a very young age. I started my Mary Kay business when I was 22 years old. So I had established the business early on and built the business before I had children. And then in my very early 30s, I found myself in a very unusual, well, not unusual, but an unfortunate circumstances of going through an unexpected divorce. And I felt like the carpet was pulled out from underneath of me. It was not expected. It was heartbreaking. I had a 18-month-old baby and a 4.5-year-old little girl. And, in the thick of parenting babies and toddlers, and those of you who have children know how hard that is. And your world is like engrossed in all of the things that they need. You almost lose part of yourself during that time frame. A lot of us feel we do, at least. And I found myself, going through that and then learning that I'm now going through a separation. It was literally the lights turned on one day and panic struck. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. I was worried. I was, stressed. I was unsure how I was going to juggle being the mom I wanted to be and also the business I was always running and maintain the lifestyle that I was living, right? Because let's be honest, when you live a certain lifestyle, you don't want that to change, especially for your children, right? So I found myself, picking up my business, and I had already started my business, a decade prior. I had slowed it down a little bit when I first had the girls because I was able to work from home with my business and focus on being the parent in the home full time, but also working. But to be honest with you, when the divorce kicked in, I had to reboot that business and I had to find a way to juggle it all. And it wasn't easy. It was certainly another challenge going through a big challenge in that moment. But what I found was it brought me another level of confidence. It brought me another level of ability to help other women and support other women. I became very passionate about sharing my story because so many of us go through that exact situation. So many of us find ourselves one day in an unexpected marital situation that we don't plan for. Let's face it, when you get married, you don't plan to leave the marriage. Um, and I found myself wanting to make sure other women didn't find themselves in a financial crunch. And I knew I had this business and I knew I had a way that I could always earn money. And I had a way to build it up or slow it down because I can, when you have your own business, you have the ability to do as much or as little as you want. So during that time frame, I just focused on regrowth and rebuilding. I made sure I plugged myself into networking, supporting myself with other women that are like-minded and lifted me up. The community of women that I was aligned with were very supportive and, built me up because, to be honest with you, my confidence was not feeling the level I wanted it to feel when I was in that situation. But that's kind of like the beginning parts of how I got my mind wrapped around that stage.
Hmm. So you self-started it and you were kind of, slow-moing it as you needed to, and then you get your babies, they take priority, and then you find yourself in a situation where I've got to have income.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Because what are our choices? Go out to work for someone else 9 to 5, put our kids in daycare, which
Hmm.
costs as much as you make,
Hmm.
and you never have anything to give at the end of the night, but yet you have to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we're never replenishing all the things that we're doing for someone else's business, but when we
Hmm.
have our own, we've got to be dedicated. We're also leaving a legacy and example to our
Yes.
children of self-empowerment. And one of the things I loved about Mary Kay is I know that she started this business after she retired, and she felt that, in the corporate world, there wasn't a lot of women's support, right? And
Correct.
then it was, you know, how can we work as a team versus being competitive against each other while we're out there? And then how do we do it on a faith-based giving of service? I think if I'm remembering that correctly. Um, how do we do all that and still remain true to who we are and empower each other, to build them up as we build ourselves up?
Yeah, the business model that she created is pretty impressive. It's even studied at the Harvard Business School. She started this when she was early 50s, late 40s, early 50s. And in the 60s, women were starting to become more in the working world. And she was working in corporate America, and all the men that she was training kept getting promoted above her. And she got really upset about it. So she started writing things down, thinking that she was going to write a book. And she realized she had a business plan. So she and her 20-year-old son built the business together, which took her entire life savings. And she created the company with the emphasis of putting your faith in your family before your career and putting the golden rule as the forefront of every decision you make, which is treating
Mm,
people the way you want to be treated. And she has since passed away over 25 years ago, but her kids and grandkids still own the company, and that is still the heart of the company today. So it's really nice because when you're going through a change in life or you're going through a hard time, having like community like that has service at the heart. I think we're all teachers at heart, as women, whether we have children and we're teaching our children or we're in an employment situation where we're helping and teaching our staff. We're teachers. We're always whether you have a spouse, you're teaching him what you want him to do, right? Um, Having the community of women and this specific organization was super empowering because everything is positive. Everything is all about how can I help you? How can we help other people? Yes, we have a beautiful product to offer, but our core values are service, and we're sharing what we love to help other women feel empowered and feel more confident in her skin. And as we know, as women, when we look and feel good, we perform better. We're better moms, we're better employees, we're better friends. We don't walk past the mirror and say negative things to yourself in your own mind. And that's really what motivated me because I know how much it has helped me over the years. And I found myself when I went through this challenging situation, you know, the more you talk about it, the more you realize so many other women in your life are going through it or went through it as well. And if you can help somebody else get through it, whether it's in the beauty world or helping them build a business for a side income or just being a support structure for them with the things that you've learned is really motivational and it's uplifting. It's something that motivates me to keep moving forward and building my business.
yeah, it's monumental when you have that support system.
Yeah.
It truly is. So walk us through a day in the life of Sarah.
Oh, well, I think it changes, it definitely is different day in, day out. My goal is always to, once my kids get off to school, one just graduated, so now I just have one left. I usually take a look at the calendar, figure out, what I already have plugged in. I try to go for a walk in the morning, get into some natural sunlight. And then I plan out my social media. I'm very active on social media. So I'll try to record any social media things I can do first thing in the morning when I am doing my own makeup or my own skincare, because I use my daily routine as just content. And then I usually have appointments with clients where they come to me or I come to them at their office or their home. I sit down with women and I help them with their skincare and their makeup and help teach them how to do it confidently in their own, lifestyle. And then usually by mid-afternoon, that takes me to when one of the kids is coming in from school and I might take a little bit of a break. And I may do some phone calls with team members and help them with their questions and their businesses. And I might even do some Zoom meetings early evening where I do some trainings and some live events in the evenings. I do a lot on social media.
Did you find when all the social media came about that it was a bit of a challenge to learn how to use that platform to excel?
It's interesting. Yeah, I started dabbling in social media before the pandemic happened. So I had my feet wet. But literally, when that moment happened and everything shut down, and I'm in a business where I touch people and I'm in people's personal space, I had a moment where I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to make this work? This is my full-time income. How am I going to see people? Maybe they'll still come over, I thought. And I was like, oh no, I have two choices right now. I can sit here and cry, or I can flip the switch and I'm just going to get on social media. If it's not perfect, it's not perfect. It's going to be okay. I'm just going to do it to be a positive voice for people and to be a stress free environment. So I just went live every single day on Facebook. Every single day we were shut down until we opened back up. And I got really proficient at the whole social media and live and posting, and I learned it organically. So I'm proud of that part because it would have been really easy to like just crawl in a hole and be like, I can't do this. But I actually fell in love with it. I learned that this was something that really was enjoyment for me. And I was able to then teach other people how to do it as well.
Yeah, like me.
Yes, like
I
you.
got stuck a few times and I had to go, Sarah. And she offered. She said, Sandy, if you don't know how to use Instagram, come over to my house and let me just show you just a couple things. And I was like, and she's such a good instructor or teacher and so much love oozes from her. It was like, I've got this. This is not as hard
Yeah.
as I thought it was. And so I mean, I it's still a challenge for me because I'm self-learning and but you have taught me enough to get myself out there on some of the platforms. So every once in a while when I see Sarah out and I've done something, she's like, Sandy.
Yes. You do a great job, Sandy. And
Well, thank you.
I mean, that's a really good example. So many people have that fear of, I can't do something because I haven't done it before, or I'm too old, or it's not right for me. I don't enjoy it. And the reality is, it's whatever you decide you want to do, you can do. I always tell people, if you believe you can do it and you're willing to put the effort into it, then you can do it. If you keep telling yourself you can't do it, then you're probably right. You can't, because your
Hmm.
mind is going to go and work towards exactly what you tell it to do.
Yes. And one of my questions I was going to ask you is, you know, how much of a challenge is it for you to look in the face of, rejection and slow
Yeah.
times? And basically you just answered it. Well, hey, we had this, year of I couldn't go anywhere. How was I going to sustain myself? How was
Yeah.
I going to help? And you reinvented yourself. So it sounds to me like that was just a blip in the
It
radar.
was.
So whereas other people, it would be I'm dead in the water. I
Mhm.
can't do anything. And most businesses dried up during those couple years.
I think a lot of
So,
brick and mortars definitely has struggled, but I think everybody who went the social media route, I think flourished. My business more than doubled during that time frame, which was a blessing, and I'm so so grateful for it. Because in addition to self-teaching myself all these skills and then teaching other women how to do it, I was also being rewarded, and that wasn't necessarily the intention. I just wanted to stay afloat. Um,
yes.
so it was definitely the blessing in the end, but there's always challenges. We have to constantly reinvent ourselves. My business in the beauty world is constantly evolving and changing, and there's so much competition. So for me, I'm always looking to grow differently, learn something new. What can I be doing differently? How can I separate myself from the noisy world out there where we have every corner there is a beauty store, type of thing. Every commercial is beauty products. So I'm always looking how I can refine myself and brand myself.
And you do an amazing job. And let's also talk about the last 4 years, 5 years, you had a big reward and an experience, did you not? Where
Yes,
you
yes,
received something. And so why don't
yes.
you tell our viewers what that was? I mean,
Oh,
during
yes,
the pandemic, people, this
yes.
can be done.
That's
So I
really
want I
hard time.
want you to
I don't know
share
if you can see it.
share that. Yeah,
Can you
share
see
that.
it behind me?
The
So
your
so up here I have this
your
beautiful
crown.
crown. My
Yes.
beautiful crown is one of my career life goals. When I first joined Mary Kay, I was only 22 years old when I joined Mary Kay, and I will be celebrating 25 years in the company this August. So when I first joined, one of my biggest goals was to become the queen of sales. And that's what this crown is. It's a representation of being the number one person in personal sales in the company for that year. And so it always been one of my biggest goals. And I had always been really close and in the top three or top two or top 10 for many, many years. And during the past 5 years, during the pandemic, especially, really built the strength and honestly the courage and the belief for me to do it. So I am one of those people that I have to see it in steps to believe it can happen. I'm not one of those people that's like, I can just do it. I never did it before. I can just do it. I have to have proof along the way that I'm getting closer to being at that level. Um, so I'm very logical in that way. So as the numbers proved that it was possible and I would be able to push through it, I kept working harder and it built belief in myself. So,
Hmm.
when you have a situation, when you're working on a goal or whatever it could be, I believe in proving to yourself first that you can do it. And one of the things that I found that is really important to maintain is but do whatever you tell yourself you're going to do it. And so this was one of those things I told myself I was going to do it 20 years ago, right? And I finally did it. And it wasn't just believing in myself. It held a huge um belief factor for other women in my company because they knew it was my goal. They watched me through these years. They watched me get other awards and, other accomplishments alongside of it. And so when it happened, it was such a moment of belief for other people because they thought she did it. I can do it too. I can do my goals too. I can earn my goals and my dreams. It's not out of reach. So for me, I took it very seriously in that sense because I knew a lot of people's dreams and goals were holding on to mine. And I brought my two daughters at the time. They were teenagers and they came to Dallas with me and they were on stage with me when I received the crown. So to kind of give you a visual, it's like a combination of Miss America and the Grammy Awards. You wear ball gowns, you have sashes, they have this beautiful chair. It comes out of the air. It's like a crown, queen chair, and they crown you. And it's a real crown with Swarovski crystals. It's beautiful. My name is etched on the box. So they do a beautiful job at making you feel special. And it's nice because it's a Cinderella moment, right? And
Hmm.
the company has always believed in Cinderella prizes and Cinderella moments because when Mary Kay was alive in the early 60s, she believed that women would not buy themselves certain level things. And she wanted to be the one providing those special, glamorous things to her sales force because women would work the incentives for it.
Well, I think you also received a pink vehicle.
I did. I also received the pink Cadillac during in 2022. And that was also a really big goal of mine. It was super exciting to have the pink Barbie car. So that was also a really great, trophy on wheels. It's exciting. It
Mm.
was I think at the time it was my seventh car I've earned, but my first pink Cadillac.
Oh, yeah, you're just so blessed. But you know what? You put the hard work in to be as blessed as you are. It
Thank
takes
you.
it takes a lot of action and not and less talk. Give,
Yeah.
self-talk, yes, but
Yes.
a lot of action to walk your walk. And you were a forerunner out there so that you could bring other people that may not have been as confident as you, and you're forging your way and helping them find the path behind you, but then to
Correct.
come up and stand with you.
Yes.
So in building your business outside of, selling some amazing products that everybody needs at home, um, what about, well, beauty products I'm talking about, not
Yeah.
house cleaning products.
Yeah.
Let me clarify that. Um, what kind of things, what qualities do you look for when you're selecting, team members?
Yeah. I would say the first thing I look for is already do you love the products? Because I believe you cannot represent something that you do not love. So number one is do you love the products? Do you seek extra income? Do you seek community? Do you seek, are you a self-starter? Are you a leader? Um, are you someone who is service heart-based? Because I don't, a lot of women will always say, I'm not a salesperson. And I'm like, thank you. I do not want you to be a salesperson. I want you to lead with your heart and I want you to serve. So those are some of the biggest qualities I look for. And are you a woman of your word? Are you willing to do what you say you're going to do? And are you willing to be a self-starter? Because let's face it, when you have your own business, that doesn't matter what the business is, you have to be willing to be a self-starter because nobody's going to do it for you. Yes, I'll be there to support. Yes, I'll be there to answer every question under the sun. But you have to be willing to put yourself out there and be uncomfortable. And when you have your own business, it is uncomfortable.
It
Yeah.
is, because you've got to stick
Mhm.
your neck out there and be willing to accept the rejections, but they're not really
Yes.
rejections. It's just today's no could be tomorrow's yes.
Yes.
So, you know, you just have to look at it that's not personal, and you just
Correct.
keep moving until
Yeah.
you find that one person that's like, oh, they're the go-getter. And then next thing
Yes.
you know, you've got another one and another one and another one. So you build a powerful team. And you've got to have, I always feel like in order to be a good leader, you have to learn to be a good follower.
Yeah.
And a leader is as good as their followers. That's always been my philosophy. So in order to lead well, your followers in a way have to be able to step up and support you. But then when you're actually building a boardroom full of a team of
Yeah.
people that are more on the executive, I'm starting my own, I've got to answer to myself, I've got to answer to this team. They hold themselves to a different accountability,
They
and so
do.
they know when to step forward and lean, when to step back and follow, which is what I think helps you stand apart. Because what would you say in the life of um, a team member? What would that look like if someone was to join your team today? Like, what would that look like as you being their
Leader.
their leader?
Yeah. I do customize it for every person who comes on board because not everybody's looking to get the same experience out of the business. I have women who are doctors or lawyers who are joining the business because they want the camaraderie. Then I have women who maybe are at home with three little girls and they have a full-time job and they would love to have some little extra income to pay for all the extras in life, right? So I really try to customize what I do with each person based on what they want to get out of it. Because let's face it, some people are going to want to run really fast, and some people are going to put their toe and just dip their toe in. And both options are completely okay. I always tell women, whatever you decide to do with your business, it's not about what I want for you, it's about what you want for you. So I'm going to be here as a leader to help you get out of it what you want. And I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I'm going to try to get to know somebody, especially if I don't already know her very well. I'm going to ask a lot of questions about, her lifestyle, what her goals might be, like what if questions, like if you could have a certain amount of money per month that would make your life less stressful, what would that be? Um, do you have time on the weekends where you would love to be able to spend time with girlfriends and you don't have that in your life right now? Like I just try to figure out what really is making her tick. Because once I figure out what makes her tick and what's really in it for her, I can move along the steps of getting her to where she wants to be. So if she's motivated by money, I can focus just on the money. If she's motivated on becoming personal, having personal growth and self-development, I can plug her into all of my self-development stuff right away. So all of it's available for each and every person. I just try to guide them based on where they are. So for example, everybody starts the same way. I have a Zoom meeting with them or a FaceTime meeting with them face to face so I can get to know her. And then I start giving them certain small tasks to do based on what our discussion is.
And you're the party lady.
I'm the party
So
lady.
Sarah always has multiple parties throughout the year, whether it's a holiday theme or whatever it is. And anyone who might not understand or is a party thrower, they could go and just see, oh, this is how she sets it up, and then
Yeah.
duplicate the process in
Yes.
order to keep up with their business too. And
Exactly.
then, I mean, as a mentor, people can follow your lead on
Yeah.
how you approach different people. But I also think, there's a knack to, you know, not having the sales, but knowing how to educate people,
Yeah.
and then giving them the opportunity to see how their wants can be needs. And
Yes.
everybody is doing makeup, so why not get something that,
Out of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, also being a distributor with you and being a consultant with you and being part of your team member, you also reap the benefits of having discounts on what it is that you purchase, that you're going to purchase anyway,
Yes. I don't
right?
understand why everybody doesn't do it. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm still like mind blown that not every single person who buys this product or loves beauty products doesn't just sign up because the benefit of your personal consumption alone is worth all of it.
Yes. And let's face it, when you go into these retail stores, you are bombarded
Yeah.
by so many people coming to you. Oh, you need my product. You need my product.
Yeah.
And anyway, it gets on overload.
Yes.
So you are still growing your team, and you would like to continue to grow your team because,
Absolutely.
not the bigger is better, but the more exposure you have to inviting people in, which also invites them to explore their own
Yes.
self-expression and beauty and wellness and health, because it's really what it's all about.
It is.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, you're more appealing not only to self but to those you present to. And there's just something about that side that I think invokes that feminine energy of just
Yes.
being softer. And when we're softer, we greet the world with less aggravation and less aggression, and we listen more and sometimes talk less so that we could take it in a different way. And that's really what that feminine beauty is all about. And I think you walk that. You are the embodiment of that. I can't
Oh, thank
imagine
you.
you doing anything else. I just
I
can't.
can't either. I
But
don't even
I
know what it would be.
but I would be honored to be there in a decade from now to see what it is that you do create,
Oh,
or a
thank you.
spin-off of something. I mean, that's just how amazing I find you, and I know your team find you, and your personal friends and family find you. Is, you're just that warm open home of, hey, come on in and try out some beauty stuff, and hey, when you want to be a team member, I got space, and if I got space, I can also be your mentor for as long as you need until you
Exactly.
launch on your own. And, let's reel it back in here for a sec. What an amazing gift to live and breathe and walk this, that your children literally can invoke that themselves.
Yeah.
What a statement that is to your children, that you could self create within the umbrella of another creation. But this
Yes.
takes self creation. This takes full on action, no matter
Yeah.
what degree you want to go into it. But what a beautiful gift you give your children to look up to their mom, and the freedom that it's given you to say, you know what, I'm going to rearrange my schedule because my daughter has a dance class, or my daughter has a sports, or my daughter
Yes.
has this going on, or hey, one of my kids just isn't up to par today. I need to back up a little bit and I need to go over here and do this. We all know how difficult that is if you're with an employer
Oh.
It's
My goodness.
impossible. I got to take off a half day. I got to leave an hour early. I got to come in a little later. I got orthodontic appointments. I got this. I got that. I got pediatricians. I got, this going on. I
Yeah.
got, hormone breakdowns as teenagers, the whole bit. Bosses are like, they really don't like having a lot of women around because they know they have to take off
Yeah.
because we're the primary caretakers. So, what a beautiful encompassing way to create your own business and
Mhm.
sustain and have that flexibility to say, hey, daughters, I'm making the time for you because I can. And then I'm
Yes.
going to work extra hard on the days where you're launching on your own over here and
Yes.
everything's copacetic in my day. But when, things explode, which they do in lives of children, they just do. Life happens, hiccups happen. You can say, okay, I need to pause. And this is my priority is my kids.
Yes.
And then you have
That's
that exhale with that of not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get hammered by my boss and that boss and that boss. And then I got to work doubly hard to make up for it. And it's a downward spiral.
it is. I actually just experienced that exact scenario for the past year and a half, but mostly the past 6 months. My younger daughter has been struggling with some health issues and literally has missed more school than she's been in school. And I have thought multiple times, I am so grateful that I work for myself and have the flexibility to work this around, because had I been in a traditional 9 to 5 situation, I would have lost my job because I had to pick her up from school or take her into school late or not take her at all more days than not. And it was brought to my attention many times, like just the universe showing me, this is something that you need to show more gratitude for, because until you're in a situation where you realize, how much it's affected you, I don't even know what I would have done. So I always encourage women, if you can find a way to have your own business in some way, shape, or form, you have an idea in your mind, or you have a desire in your heart, alongside, if you have a full-time career, whatever it is, do it. Because if you're able to build that flexibility into your life, you're going to have that short-term sacrifice now for a long-term gain later, that you're going to be able to tap into it when you least expect it. So I would have never thought this is something I would have had to deal with, but I did. And I'm so grateful that I had that flexibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can feel that through the screen
Yeah.
because, when we can't be there for our kids or one of them's not feeling well and we know that our bosses are going to, just we can't miss work.
Right.
We're just going to let down everybody at work. So many times we have to forsake the child and or forsake the work. And that is such a guilty, dense vibrational energy to be placed in.
Yeah.
And this has placed you in you know, another chord of vibration that says, you know what, I have some bendability and flexibility here. And also building a beautiful team where people are like, no problem, Sarah, give me a call back tomorrow. No
Exactly.
problem, Sarah. I can pick up that product from you, later tonight. Don't worry about
Yes.
it.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're at a job, you're like, no, it's due now, and you better, because you're paid to stay there until it's all done. And it's
Yes.
hectic. It's so hectic. Whether you're married and have two incomes, whether you're, divorced and single and have one income, you know, having another conglomerate pulling your strings is very
Hmm.
taxing. And many of us out here listening know that. So, I encourage people to, hey, if you're looking for something to supplement for right now, I'll have Sarah's information down in the description. You can take a look at the model, listen to her and decide, hey, maybe I could do a little bit of this part time and then do maybe some of the weekends when my kids aren't around, or maybe I
Absolutely.
could do it here, do it there. And oh, I had no idea it was going to grow because, one of my questions for you was, in the beginning when you started this, did you initially think you'd be where you are?
No.
And in the very beginning, before marriage and kids, it's a part-time job. And afterwards, it's like, okay, this is a survival job. And then later it began, oh, I have some goals.
Yeah.
And then look at how well you achieve them.
Yeah, I know. I'm so grateful. I mean, when I started when I was 22 years old, I joined because I wanted the discount. I was working full time as a tax accountant, which was my career choice. I went to school for accounting, learned very, very quickly that was not aligned with my vibration. And I hated it. But I was insecure. I didn't know what else I was good at. And then I lost my job. And I had joined Mary Kay the year prior just for the discount. And I did nothing with it for a full year. And then when I lost that job, it was the universe's way of removing me from the situation I was too afraid to walk away from my own, and forced me to look more into this in detail and learn how I could actually supplement my life. And while I thought it was just going to be a supplement, I never went back to corporate America. So within 6 months, I had replaced that income that I had at in accounting. And never in a million years would I thought this is where I would end up. I thought I was going to run a company one day, in corporate, become a partner one day in some sort of big accounting firm. Even though I knew I was miserable, that's what I thought my path was going to be. And I'm certainly glad I didn't, because I'm certainly more joyful and I'm full of life and I'm happy, and I get to help other women feel the same thing every single day. Like nobody's ever grumpy to see me. Whereas in the other world, I wasn't always the favorite person to see, right? It wasn't joy
Mm.
filled. So I like to live a joy filled life. And um I really love being that person for other people, because I know that it's one of my strengths is loving on other people and serving other people.
Well, Sara Mangiaracina, I am so glad that you didn't quit because, I know some of the people that you work with and are friends with and so on. And, if you had quit, you wouldn't have reached out and touched so many people's
Yeah,
hearts and brought beauty into their lives and have them own and see the beauty within themselves that they now can share and expand out because each person that you touch touches another person. And
absolutely.
who doesn't need more beauty and love in this world?
So true.
So
Thank you for
true.
having me.
Oh my goodness, it's such a pleasure. And do you have a website or an email
Yes, I
address?
have a
I'm
website.
going to include it in the
Yeah.
description, but if you want to toss it out there now, please do.
Yes, my website is really easy. It's www.maryk.com/sgill1, Gill1. That's my maiden name. And I would love for you to follow me on social media. I give free beauty tips almost every single day. And my handle on Instagram is smandracina, and I'll have you spell it out when you post it. But that's a great way to just learn how to feel good every single day.
And she does, you guys. She gets on there with no makeup and she's
Yeah.
like, oh, look at this. And you're like, oh, before and afters are amazing. And it's a helpful tutorial for people to go, you know what, I could try it this way. I didn't think about because we
Yes.
get in a habit of how we put our makeup on. We just do.
Absolutely.
And we don't
Absolutely.
think about, oh, I don't want to fuss with all that. But sometimes just a different stroke and a different movement can give a whole
Oh,
different look. Or just
exactly.
adding a little something is like, oh, and then it makes you feel even more beautiful. And of course, the more beautiful you feel, the more love you're
Yeah.
showering on yourself, primarily. That's where you want it. And then
Yes.
to shower on others, people, places, things, pets, etc. Because everything is vibration, everything is energy. And the more love we can share, the more we can circulate that into the world. Well, Sara, it has been a real honor and a pleasure. And I'd love to have you back on sometime.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Yes. And everybody, I will have the descriptions in the of her website and every place to get in contact with her down below. And again, please like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment. Let us know what Keeping Spiritually Simple could maybe bring to the table, bring another interviewee on, what questions you may have for Sara, and we'll go from there. In the meantime, say goodbye, Sara.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.